Slab City, a desert area in the United States, is known as a lawless city. In this place, everyone is free to choose their own path in life, whether in creative freedom or in risky, desolate despair. Slab City is not a city as we know it. It has no mayor, no government offices, no police station, no electricity, and no clean water system. From the outside, it looks like a collection of trailers, dilapidated tents, and makeshift shacks in the middle of a barren desert expanse. However, for some, Slab City is the ultimate paradise, a place where there are no taxes. There is no government intervention and no binding social rules. So here, freedom is not just a word, but an everyday reality. Slab City is a haven of freedom, a place where people can live without state interference, free from bureaucracy, and free from rules perceived as restrictive. However, for others, this place seems like a small dystopia. A fragile community lives on the edge of civilization, where the absence of law means the risk of violence, crime, and uncertainty. One group found in abundance in Slab City are United States war veterans. These are men who served in Vietnam, Iraq, or Afghanistan. They fought valiantly to uphold the dignity of their country. But then, at an age when they should have found peace, they were thrown into a miserable existence. Many of them carry psychological trauma, struggle to adapt to civilian life, and most fall into a cycle of poverty. For these veterans, Slab City is a place where they can live without the pressures of society. No one demands normalcy. There is no stigma, no complicated rules. Just the freedom to sit in an old trailer, stare out at the desert, or pass the time with simple conversations with fellow residents. Slab City is also known as a magnet for eccentric artists and hippies. They see the desert as a blank canvas for their expression. This is where famous art projects like East Jesus, an area filled with art installations made from discarded materials, transformed into unique works, were born. Artists living in Slab City generally reject the commercial mainstream art system. They don't pursue galleries or the art market, but create works that live within a free community. And here, art becomes a part of everyday life, not just a commodity. Furthermore, Slab City also houses those who have nowhere else to go. Many homeless people come here because they can't afford rent in big cities. At Slab City, they can build homes from used materials without paying rent or taxes. However, the reality of life for the homeless in the desert is far harsher. Without access to water, electricity, or healthcare, they must rely on community solidarity. Some of them fought hard to survive, while others succumbed to drugs or alcohol. Slab City also serves as a home for those with darker motives, escaping social or legal obligations. Some are fleeing debt, others are avoiding family responsibilities, and still others are fleeing the authorities. Because there is no registration system, anyone can come and live in Slab City without question. That's why Slab City is often labeled a dangerous place. The city has a reputation for drug trafficking, violence, and even difficult to solve criminal cases, as law enforcement rarely enters the area. Despite their diverse and often contrasting backgrounds, one common thread unites Slab City's residents: a longing for freedom. Many have felt trapped by city systems, rent, utility bills, strict rules, or even just the judgmental gaze of society. In Slab City, all of that has disappeared. Everyone can be themselves without worrying or caring about being considered strange or abnormal. Thus, all the backgrounds and stories of Slab City come together in one space. And in turn, this place becomes a portrait of another America. No longer about skyscrapers or modern cities, but about the people who choose to live on the fringes of the system. Slab City can no longer be understood simply by population figures or social statistics. It is a collection of personal stories, not always rational motives, and dreams of freedom, realized on a former military base. Slab City is often described as a city without money, or a paradise of free freedom. However, the reality is that no human life can be completely separated from the economy. Even in the middle of a barren desert, people still need food, water, clothing, and other goods to survive. And to get all of these things, they need money. Uniquely, the economy in Slab City could be called a shadow economy. It's a mix of barter, donations, informal labor, and a little cash. There are no banks, no fixed salaries, and no taxes. All that exists is creativity in earning a living. This means that the economy in Slab City is full of paradoxes. On the one hand, it frees its citizens from the modern capitalist system. There is no rent, no taxes, and no banking system. But on the other hand, many residents remain dependent on the outside world for basic necessities, whether to buy water, work in the surrounding fields, or accept donations from tourists. In other words, Slab City is not a completely self-sufficient economy. As a lawless area, security in Slab City is a personal matter. Here, many people keep guard dogs or even firearms for personal protection. Conflicts are often resolved directly, sometimes through negotiation and sometimes through fistfights. However, there is also a sense of respect among residents. Most people realize that they are all there for the same reason, to escape the pressures of the outside world. Because of this, major conflicts rarely destroy the community. The freedom in Slab City is a paradox. It allows people to live without state regulation. But on the other hand, it also forces people to live at high risk. There is no guarantee of security, no medical services, and no legal protection. To outsiders, this may seem like a terrifying situation. But to the residents, it is a price worth paying for something they consider more important: complete autonomy over their own lives. Many academics and journalists have called Slab City a social experiment in modern anarchy. He demonstrated how society can govern itself without formal legal ties. Slab City wasn't born from urban planning like most settlements in the United States. It emerged from the ruins of military history, from something originally designed for wartime purposes to a place of escape, freedom, and isolation. To understand Slab City, we must trace its history back to World War II. In 1942, during World War II, the United States government built a military base called Camp Dunlap in the Colorado Desert, not far from the small town of Neyland, California. This base was used as a training ground for Marines. The location was chosen because of its harsh desert climate, considered ideal for training soldiers' physical endurance. Furthermore, the area was remote, making it an ideal location for live fire training and military experiments. Camp Dunlap was built with complete facilities, including barracks, a firing range, ammunition depots, and basic infrastructure like water and electricity. However, with the end of World War II, the need for this base waned. In the early 1950s, Camp Dunlap officially closed and was slowly dismantled. All the main buildings were demolished, leaving only one thing behind: the concrete slabs that had once been the foundations of the military barracks, which later gave rise to the name Slab City. The city was never actually built. It was simply formed from old concrete slabs, abandoned by the military, then taken over by people seeking shelter. After the military abandoned it, Camp Dunlap's land returned to being a desert. However, in the 1950s and 1960s, several groups began to arrive here. The first wave were snowbirds. This is the term for retirees or nomads looking for a cheap place to stay during the winter. Although arid, the California desert has warmer temperatures than the northern states of America, and for those living on a small pension, Slab City became a kind of paradise. Free land, no rent and no taxes. And over time, this community grew. Artists, hippies, nomads, and even those with no other options began calling Slab City home. There were no leases, no formal land ownership, just the freedom to park a trailer or pitch a tent on top of the empty lab. As an unplanned city, life here is completely different from any other city in the United States. There are no neatly paved streets, no rows of permanent houses, no streetlights, let alone modern shops. There is only a dusty expanse of desert, the concrete of a former military base, and a variety of dwellings built with creativity and limitations. However, this is where Slab City is unique. This place has no standard housing. Dwellings can range from small tents made of tarpaulin, old rusty trailers, old school buses converted into homes, to art installations that also function as living spaces. Each resident is free to choose how to build their home according to their own resources and imagination. One of the biggest challenges in Slab City is the lack of electricity. The place lacks official state power. Some residents purchased gasoline generators, while others began using cheaply purchased second-hand solar panels. With small panels, they can power fans, lights, or charge their phones. Water is also a major problem. There is no water pipe to this area, so residents must buy gallons of water from shops in Nyland or rent tanker trucks to fill large containers. And because water is limited, they use it sparingly, only for drinking, simple cooking, and basic laundry. Bathing is almost impossible here. Most people use buckets or makeshift showers made from plastic bottles. Ultimately, Slab City is a city of freedom filled with paradoxes. On the one hand, there is total freedom. No taxes, no regulations, and no government intervention. But on the other hand, lies a very harsh reality. Desert heat, water shortages, the danger of crime, and the absence of basic services. Yet it is precisely in this paradox that daily life in Slab City becomes so appealing. For its residents, every day is a conscious choice to stay here, embracing both chaos and freedom, and embracing both hardship and solidarity.